Hello. Once again, this is Sal, and I'm back with yet another exit interview from another one of the jury members for Something Awful Let's Play. I am very fortunate today to be joined by Drake. Hello, Drake. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing all right. I'm getting used to not only going back to work and doing all these things, but also there is no game to come back to. So it's just the last 6 weeks just planning, all right, I've got this, then I have to be ready at this time for a game that is supposed to be mobile friendly, but it's probably not. So
well, thank you. I'm so excited to have you join me. Thank you so much for taking time, and I'm glad that our schedules were finally able to mesh to talk because you were definitely a person that was high on my list of people that I really wanted to talk to. Um, so first, what I would like to talk about is like what I know that you have never seen Survivor before, correct?
that's not entirely true. Back when it first came out, like eons ago, I remember watching the first couple of episodes and going, "This is kind of stupid." And my knowledge of it is just like general cultural.
Okay. So you knew the gist, like people go to an island, people get voted out,
They do
etc.,
all kinds
etc.
of stupid things,
Yeah.
games and whatnot, and then there's this big meeting where they try to convince people not to kick them out, and one by one they get kicked out.
Had you ever heard of like any of the other awful survivors? Because there's been several of them. Did you know that that was even a thing that was being run on the forums? Because like I honestly didn't. I had played in one in like 2013, and then I just had never been interested in them or even knew they were still going until last year when I played in two different games like this. So, were you even aware of Awful Survivor was a thing?
I didn't know until I saw Blind Sally's post in the LP forum that this was a thing. And I looked it over and I'm like, you know what? It's the COVID quarantine. I ain't going nowhere. Might as well sign up and see where it takes me. And I'm like putting down all my information and I'm like, well, I'm old. I don't know where the age split's going to be. I'll just be honest and just put in a lot of honest stuff and didn't really think about it until I got the message from Cena that, yeah, you made it in.
Yeah, it is definitely weird. I'm 40, so I'm on the older spectrum as well. So I definitely I know what you mean where it's like you're like, "Oh man, boy, I'm like every I mean, I think that there was somebody in there it escapes me who it was but was like 18 or 20 or something like that.
Blaze.
Yeah,
Blaze isn't,
Blaziken.
yeah.
Yeah, super young.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah,
figured
it's
there would be a lot more people Blaze's age, but there were people pretty much. I wasn't the oldest. I was surprised, but yeah, we were pretty much all over the place.
yeah, Cena does not to stroke Cena's ego. Cena does a pretty good job of casting these things in general. He's pretty in tune with who he thinks is going to be interesting. So, and I think he knocked it out of the park with you guys again. Um, so I know that the first week for the Cheese Tribe it was pretty much like, oh, we want immunity, we want immunity, we want immunity. Um,
Yeah.
did I will just say you were one of the quieter players in your confessional, so there was sometimes where it was kind of hard to kind of like find out what was going on with you. And I don't mean that negatively. It's just I know some people really like to use confessionals, some people don't. Was there anything that happened in that first week on the Cheese Tribe, like any conversations that you had with anybody that we weren't like necessarily privy to?
Well, during that first week, um, I was talking with Chili and Taste a lot, not really about game theory, but I know they were reaching out and trying to connect with people and sound them out for game purposes, but like at the beginning Like it felt like, I don't know, we were two separate teams and it was summer camp and one of us had the flag and um we were just palling around and having a good time. And I didn't quite realize it at the time that some people were using that to kind of position themselves within the game and find allies and whatever. And I I'm just like, hey, we're sharing pictures of our cute animals and we're talking about things that interest us, and we're all sitting at the um various tribal councils watching Slow Beef Tribe just get roasted and just feeling the camaraderie. And
Hmm.
um I I talked with everybody who would talk back, but most of the time it was Chili, Taste, and Chaos who would talk back.
Hmm.
And a couple other people like Jose, I didn't hear from them very often. It's I knew that Jose was looking after a young child, so it's like, yeah, it's parental duties, and of course, Chili was as well.
Hmm.
That first week, it was bonding. The people who were more experienced at the game were just sounding each other out, and yeah,
Yeah,
I think it was really the merger that I guess things really got started for Cheese, or what was left of Cheese.
that's sort of the general consensus I've heard from. So there was an alliance of four on the cheese tribe that was it was Chili Taste, Generico, and oh, Jose, obviously.
Yeah.
So there was like kind of that group of four, and then there was you, excuse me, you, Sally. I'm just gonna make this easy for myself and just pull up my yeah, so there was yeah, so it was so Toaster, Sally, you, and Chaos were kind of I called you the unaffiliated floaters just because like I didn't really have a good way to describe you. So there it was like the four of you who were kind of seemingly just like, okay, let's like, kind of feel this out. And then there was like Chili Taste, Jose, and El Generico who were like, all right, let's like start doing stuff here. Um, and the general kind of consensus I've heard from most people, from like uh, Sally especially, and yeah, I guess well, Sally's the only person I talked was that really it was when the merge happened, and then or yeah, the merge happened that it was like, oh, okay, there's like stuff is happening now. Do you think not going to tribal? I mean, because like the Chrism vote was pretty easy and pretty straightforward. Do you think like not going to tribal in that first week, do you think that hurt you guys, or do you think that helped you out for the in the long run?
I think I I really think that it helped that group of four get to where they wanted to be. Like having time where they weren't pressured into voting or being voted for.
Hmm.
Um, I I feel like if we had gone to tribal instead, I think it would have been one of the four of us voted off. Most likely, I probably would have gone before the merger had Cheese gone to tribal council,
Hmm.
just because like I was just one in the group. I wasn't really a standout either competition wise or
Hmm.
plotting wise, I guess.
Yeah, I mean that's totally understandable. There is sort of like a school of thought where going to tribal is where you see your real allies, because like it's one thing to say like, hey, I'll vote with you, hey, I'll vote with you, but then when you're at tribal, that's when you like really test like, is this person going to vote with me? Are they going to do what they said they were going to do? So I feel like it's kind of a 50-50 thing. I don't know. It's hard to say in this case. In this particular game, I think it helped you guys uh, get to the merge as like because I mean, really, you lost Toaster and you lost Elgin, but the other six of you made it to the merge, so
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. Um, were there any of the challenges? So the first one was the Kong challenge, and then the second one was code names.
Knowing
Or
what we were getting.
yeah, I
Hmm?
guess it was code. Yeah, it was code
Code
names. It was
names.
code names. Yeah, yeah. Sorry.
Um, no, it's all right. Um, Knowing beforehand what we were getting into with code names, we were able to kind of have a couple practice runs. That's still the game that I think I felt the most confident playing because we had a couple times to like fumble around and go, all right, this is how the rules work. So we could like start the game as like, okay, we're just playing the game. We're not figuring out like what all we need to do.
Hmm.
Um, we were asking around like who wants to call and who wants to answer, and I thought about being the caller, but I'm like, I want to be the one who answers. I'm afraid I'm going to like think of too many off the wall things that nobody else is going to get. And um I would have been okay with either Chili or Taste being the caller. It ended up being Chili. That's cool. We had a good idea of what he was thinking, so
Yeah, Chili desperately wanted to be the caller in that game, but if you read his or listen to his video confessionals, he says like, I desperately wanted to be the caller of the game. I was not about to like force that on anyone because he, didn't want to be seen as like a threat early on, but he really wanted to be the caller of code names. Um, so we came to Predator Prey. Let's see. Let me look at the merge tribes. Excuse me.
I definitely think that was a game that we could have benefited from like a practice round or two before the official one got started.
Yeah, I Predator Prey comes from a TV show called The Genius. It's a Korean show, and even in that one, they had to give the contestants like a practice round because they were like, "I don't really understand what's going on here." But uh, yeah, that one was a little tricky. Um, when we did the tribe swap, did being last picked for the cheese tribe, did that bother you at all, or were you just sort of like, well, at least I've got chili and taste here, like I know I can count on those two?
I I figure this was if I'm remembering this correctly, this is when we split
Yeah.
and we were forced to
Yeah.
pick the new teams. I figured it was because people had their own reasons for picking. Um,
Hmm.
I thought that at the time. Looking back on it, I'm like, yeah, there were definitely alliances that people wanted. Like they wanted their buddy on their side before like somebody
Yeah.
unaffiliated. Um,
Oh, I remember when Bunny picked Sally, and I was like, why is Bunny picking Sally first? Like, this doesn't make any sense to me. I had no idea that those two had like a real close let's play friendship.
yeah, they're let's play besties.
By the way, what let's plays do you do, or do you just read the LP?
Um, I've attempted several. Like I have a what is the name? I have a Let's Play going on right now for Death Road to Canada that I haven't updated it in a while. I've made other LP attempts, but it's mostly I think my life has calmed down. I'm going to try a Let's Play. My life has picked up again. I don't have time for it anymore. Um, but I like reading them.
Hmm.
I've always liked watching people play video games, and I was kind of hoping that there would be more video game related challenges with um, Survivor that involved
Yeah,
actually playing games instead of
I was a
what they
little.
ended up being.
I'll be honest. I was a little surprised about that too because usually Cena does a pretty good job of theming the seasons. Like last year when it was Scum versus Town, it was a mafia thing, so there was a lot of like mafia theming into the game. Whereas I felt like this one was a little bit more like this is an awful survivor from the Let's Play forum that just has nothing to do with Let's Plays. So I would agree with you that I felt like there wasn't that it didn't do a good job of keeping the spirit of the LP forum, but yeah, I agree with you. So you had the chess challenge and okay, you sat out of the chess challenge. I don't blame you. I suck at chess.
Yeah, I'm really glad that Chili was able to play and I swapped out for him because, yeah, I would have, had I played and if it was my ass on the line, I would have gone home. No, I am terrible at bridge. I am terrible at chess. That's just,
Yes, as am I. I trust me. This is full respect here. I am terrible at chess. Um during the practice during the practice session, Cena asked me to play. I think it was just one of the people in the viewers Vista, and I was just like playing to the best of my ability. And then when I got done, I was looking at the Vista, and everybody was just like, "Jesus Christ, Sal, you're awful at this." And I was like, "At what point did I claim to be a chess grandmaster? Like, I told you guys I sucked at chess." So yeah, I don't blame you for sitting that one out. I would have done everything in my power to sit that one out too. Um, but then we got to the merge, and oh,
yeah.
I sorry. Before we get to the merge, did anything on the SWAT tribe? Was there anything like any conversations that you had with either? Because at that point, your new players were Chrism, Blaze, and Merc. Did you have any conversations with any of the three of them? Like, what was your relationship like with Chili and Taste at that point too?
At that point, Chili and Taste and I had our own Discord room. Um,
With Chaos, right? Or was it just the three of
it
you?
was just the three of us, and
Okay.
we would go on to have other rooms that were like the three of us plus Chaos, or the three of us plus Blaze, or like all of the old cheeses together,
Hmm.
and I'm trying to. I feel like I was friendly with Chaos, and out of the three, Chaos responded the most to like me saying hi. Merc, um, we said hi a couple times. Chrism got really into Survivor strategy, and also the whole I think I'm going to do this to my roommate because I think it's funny thing that we're all like, you
Yeah.
don't mess with somebody's computer.
Yeah. I, I had gotten to know Chrism pretty well. Chrism is not in that Among Us group, and so I had been playing Among Us with Chrism for like months leading up to that, and so and I also coincidentally work with his roommate, but I didn't know that until I voted him out in Survivor last year. So that was very funny. Um, but yeah, the Chrism thing was like a little unfortunate because it was a joke, but I think the fact that he had, excuse me, apologies, Chrism. I think the fact that they had such deep planning, like I'm gonna go to Jif Job's computer, like yada yada yada. I think that was what like kind of edged it from being a joke to like, ooh, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think it's like if this had been the TV show, I imagine that would have been played up for like, oh, that would have been amazing ratings, but like
Yeah.
it didn't feel like that's not really the attitude that we had
Hmm.
because
Plus, I
I
mean, how full disclosure, like Cena actually had taken the fact that Chrism and Jiv Job were roommates into consideration and had put and had discussed every ahead of time with Jiv Job like certain contingencies and stuff that he wanted Jiv to do to just protect game integrity. Um, but I mean, it was like, how are you guys didn't know that? Like, all you knew was here's this person saying, oh, I'm gonna go break into my roommate's computer and give myself a hidden immunity idol. So I sort of understand
yeah.
why Chrism went. Um, were there before the whole Chrism thing happened? Were there any other targets that had been discussed? Was like Blaziken on the table, or Sally, or oh, I guess Sally was on the other tribe. Excuse me. Was like had Blaziken's name been mentioned at all, or was it just always Chrism?
No, it's I don't even think I don't think any of us, well, I know I didn't, but I didn't really think of who to vote for at tribal until we actually got to tribal. And
Oh, really?
even even when we were going there, like if we knew that we were going the night before and during the day, we would be discussing it, and there would be um, I knew that people were trying to lock votes down and they were trying to sound other people out, but um, I
So,
I want to say that my reaction to Chrism was kind of what I put into consideration with all of my votes going forward. Like, if somebody's going to be on the block at tribal, um, trying to find a way to put this into words,
oh no, you're
um,
fine. You're fine.
like, is somebody taking the game too seriously? Is somebody ruining my fun? Is somebody
Fair.
ruining my zen with this?
That's fair.
Um,
So I
and
just want to. Can I just clarify something? So because like when I played, I knew going into tribal, like I had my votes made and ready to go before tribal even started. So yours were just sort of like, okay, here's a person I think should go, or did you ever like, were there any votes where you were like, this is the like if I don't know, Chili was like, hey Drake, who are you voting for? Was it always just I won't know until tribal, or were there times where you were like, oh, I'm 100% voting this person, I'm 100% voting this person?
by the end, I had a pretty good idea of who I was going to vote for. Um, Even when we were merged, and I'm reading back on Discord myself, trying to find the
Oh,
group
you're
that
fine.
I shared with It's like the name has changed like so many freaking times.
Give me a
Um,
second here. Uh, oh, here we go. It was Alan Wake. American Nightmare was yours with chili and taste. I don't
I
know if
was
that helps. I don't know if that
it,
helps you
it,
at all.
it does because I was looking up um, Dirge of Cerberus for
Oh yeah,
the chat with the
that was like
name.
the mega one with like everybody but the LPers. Which I mean, I
Yeah,
guess technically you were an LPer.
yeah. Technically, I'm like,
Um, while you're looking that up, would it be okay if I asked you about your like? Did you and Chaos have a good relationship? Because like the common perception in the Vista was that there was like you, Chaos, and Taste were like a threesome. And the concern for some of the players in the game, and that was how a lot of the players in the game viewed you three as well, that it was like Taste had his army with you and Chaos, and then there was like the Mafia 4. So that was kind of like an alliance of four, and then that had Taste in it, and then there was like an alliance of three that had Taste in it, and then the Mafia 4 was concerned about like, okay, well, when we get to the final seven or the final six, I guess at that point, if Chaos and Drake are still around, like, is Taste gonna try to use them to flip? Like, did you and Chaos have like a good game relationship, or was it just more you were both in good with, or you had a good? Was it more that both of you just had a good relationship with Taste?
we both had a good relationship with Taste. I mean, we were okay with each other. Like we weren't like outright hating on each other, and we actually conversed.
Hmm.
Like it wasn't just sort of a hi, remember me, please don't vote for me tonight kind of deal. But I oh, I can't read some of these things. Knowing what I know now, I'm just like go back in time and just boot myself. Just what were you
Oh,
thinking?
a trust me, when I found out that like my closest partner in the game last season was like not and had this other alliance, I was looking back at like Kupo and I's messages to each other, and it was very cringy where I was just like, Kupo, you're my number one, like I'll never vote for you. And so I totally understand. um so going into the merge, so we merged with 11. How are you feeling going into the merge? Were you like, okay, was that the first time like you were nervous, or were you like, this is when the real stuff is about to start, or was it just another game cycle?
I really didn't know what to expect because we switched teams like literally right before the merge happened. And I'm like, why
Hmm.
did we like switch a couple people if we were all just going to like drop the whole team thing anyway? And um I thought that the merge was another like this is just another thing. They're going to split us into teams again, and but that didn't end up happening. Again, not knowing a lot about Survivor, um, I I felt like when the numbers started dropping off late, I started getting a little bit concerned about my place in the remaining people in the game. Um, As far as, because I'm trying to remember exactly how this played out. This was when we were all voting. It was Spokes, Merc, and Sally that night, if I remember. And then,
So, um, so the merge vote, the big vote at the merge. Excuse me, it helps. Give me just a second here. So we had Chili, Jose, Taste, Merc, and Spokes all voted Sally, and then you, Chaos, Blaziken, Bunny, and Sally all voted for Merc, and then Hashel voted for you because inexplicably Chaos right before the vote said told Hashel we're voting Drake, and which is the way that I recall it, was that like literally right before Cena said like no more communications, they told Hashel that they were voting for you, and that was why Hashel ended up voting for you. Um, what made you decide to end up flipping your vote there? Because if you ever think about like the butterfly effect of things, Merc going out at that merge vote changes so much,
mhm,
changes everything that happened after that. And I
yeah.
don't put that and I don't put that solely on you. Had Hashel voted correctly, also would have changed everything. But it's just kind of this weird like what if like you get out Merc and then all of a sudden the Let's Play Illuminati really has a chance of running the table.
Oh. Oh, yeah. So this is also why my brain was fuzzy. This is about the point where I'm visiting home. Like, this is like the first time I've been out in the world after quarantine, and also finding out my dad has cancer and wanting to be with my family. Um, I am looking back now that I've pinned the date, as I think it's a conversation that I had with.
There were so many moving parts going on in that tribal that it was really hard for like even the viewers were, because usually we have like a pretty good idea of who's going home on what tribal, and in that one it was just like
Yeah, we broke Cena's brain with that one. I remember that. And Sally became blindsided Sally and still is on the
yeah.
forum.
And then there was like
Um,
the random vote for you, and everybody in the viewers were like, wait, what the hell, like who voted for Drake? Like this doesn't make any sense.
yeah, I
I guess when you saw your name, when you saw that vote for you, were you concerned at all? Like, were you like, oh man, I've been completely bamboozled? Or were you just like, oh, that's interesting?
it was kind of an interesting. It's I didn't know who. I had a feeling that it wasn't anybody from Cheese, and I
Hmm.
found out that it was Hashel. I want to. Somebody told me. I want to say that it was. I want to say it was Hashel himself. Basically, came forward and was like, "All right, I can't." Yes, because um the no hard feelings comment that I left in my own confessional, like, oh yes, and there were feelings that were had. That was like Hashel coming up to me is like, hey, yeah, I kind of threw the vote at you. It's I was told that these things were going on, and I hope you don't have any hard feelings against me going forward. And it was just like, um, I have no idea why you did that unless you're like starting to paint a target on me. I don't know how to really interpret this.
Yeah.
Um,
It was really interesting. And I think that there was also some confusion because if I remember correctly, like Bunny had immunity going into that vote, or I can't remember. Somebody had immunity going into that vote, and then they gave it to Bunny, which then kind of forced
yeah,
everything to kind of flip.
yeah,
Um,
there was some idle shenanigans going on that
when Chili played the idol for Taste, were you like, oh my god, like where did this come from, or did you know that they had an idol prior to that? No,
neither. This was like the night I got voted out that you're talking about, right? That
no,
idol, or
no.
is this? Oh, this is like okay. This
Yeah,
is the even
Chili
earlier
played.
one.
Yeah, Chili, where Chili played the idol on Taste.
I That idol I did know about. I didn't know about the later ones, but I think the earlier ones we all had an idea about.
Hmm. Okay. So, what ultimately do you know? Like, what made you flip your vote, or was it just more like, oh, I need to ensure that somebody goes home, so I have a feeling that my guys are voting for Sally, so I need to flip to Sally. Is that kind of a fair assessment of what happened, or?
I I'm thinking about what I said earlier about sort of gaminess again, like affecting my zen.
Hmm.
Um when Sally was getting me into the LP Illuminati, when before he didn't really have any interest in talking with me or interacting with me, and suddenly I was this important piece of the puzzle, and I it struck me then as kind of an I'm gathering followers for the end sort of move.
Hmm.
And
I could definitely, I definitely understand what that feeling.
I'm trying to I'm pardon me as I'm scrolling back on my
Oh,
phone to
oh, you're fine. Don't worry about it. Like I said, I've probably talked more about this season than I have my own. So I,
yeah, it's I think Bunny's last minute immunity was a surprise to everybody, and that we were kind of like, well, what do we do now? We had an idea going into this, and that idea is now off the table. So who's going to go? And um,
I mean,
I'm
clearly you had some idea of who the two potential targets were. So, like, had Sally like approached you about voting out Merck, and that was why you voted for Merck first, or who had kind of gotten you on board with the Merck vote?
I think I think the LP Illuminati were um looking for Merc, gunning for
Hmm.
Merc. Um, oh, they all have weird names. Um,
Which one are you looking for?
our short-lived LP Illuminati that kind of died once Sally got voted off.
That
Um,
was Dirge of Cerberus.
that was Dirge Cerberus. Yep,
Yeah. Oh wait, hold on. No, disregard, disregard. Sorry, sorry, sorry. That
disregard.
was not Dirge of
Yeah,
Cerberus. Uh, wasn't it Vance War?
was it?
Oh, maybe it was Dirge of Cerberus. Hold on. It's possible that it was Dirge. No, because Merc was in Dirge of Cerberus along with Taste.
Oh, I'm looking at Bubble Bobble. Um,
Oh, okay. Yeah, this chart that I have was this. The chart that I'm looking at was pre-merge. Hold on a minute here. Let me look one other place. So you had Advance Wars, which was you, Chili, Chaos, and Taste, and there was also Alan Wake's American Nightmare, and that was you, Taste, and uh, Chili. This was also coincidentally the chart that I inadvertently posted in announcements at like 3 in the morning and then scrambled to delete before anybody saw it. So that was funny. Not very funny because it like I wanted to cry, but yeah, that was a. If you've never heard about that, yeah, that was a thing that happened. I at like 3 in the morning, I was tired and was like, "Oh, I need to post this alliance chart before I go to bed." And then,
yeah, I understand like having a fuzzy brain when you're tired. Believe me.
yeah,
I'm reading back in Bubble Bobble, and yeah, that's the LP Illuminati because
okay,
Sally and Bunny were driving that one, and they were on board with voting for Merck. And I remember thinking at that point, well, if this group is I feel like I'm a part of two groups now, like the former
yeah,
cheeses, the LP Illuminati, and they're voting for two different people. And whoever I cast my vote for, like, that's going to be my,
that's your group.
yeah.
You're planning you're firmly planting your flag in the side that you're gonna be a part of. So yeah, I totally
And
understand.
and I was still feeling a bit grumpy that I was basically being used for my vote, and like Sally was interested in like having me be a part of a group just so I could vote the way he wanted me to. And I
So would it be fair to say that your first vote for Merc you were was that was a point in time where you were like, I want to do this let's play thing, and then on the revote you were kind of like, and maybe I don't like the way that Sally is kind of using me as just a vote. I need to vote with the cheeses, and then that was what caused the flip. Would that be like a fair
I
assessment?
yeah, I wanted to vote with the
Okay.
people who had so far been pretty true to me.
I I thought Taste's relationship with you was one of kind of the was a really like underappreciated story that went throughout the game. Like Taste, when I talked to Taste on Saturday, he's very complimentary of you. And there was also a couple times where people were like, in Mafia 4 chat were like, well, I tried to talk to Drake and Drake, didn't respond. Drake didn't respond. Drake didn't respond. And Taste would basically be like, no, she's cool. Like, don't mess with her. Like, she's cool. Like, she's, we're good. We're good. We're good. And I thought you and Taste relationship was very was like a story, like, because Taste's relationship with Chili was just so public and was just so big and such a driving factor of the entire season. But like, you your relationship with Taste was also like incredibly important to getting, to fifth place. And I mean, I think it showed,
Yeah.
how highly you thought of Taste by the fact that voted for him to win.
And looking back on it, like out of all the players that I spoke with one on one, Taste was definitely the one that I talked to a lot. And he knew that I was like out and about with my family. Like nobody in the game, none of the other players really knew the extent of that.
Hmm.
But um, as far as me being there and gone at weird times, like that, I think that week would have been an opportune time to like give me the boot. And yeah, Taste kept me from getting it, I think, several times.
Yeah, Taste defended you, and Taste was one of your biggest supporters throughout the game. So like, he he spoke when we talked. He spoke very highly of you, and I think that there was a lot of people who, as the season went on, were really impressed with things that you were doing, and the fact that uh, you know uh, in context, there was a lot of times I think you'll find that people's frustration with the season was just the fact that the Mafia 4 kind of never had any opposition. And and there were times where people were like, "Oh man, Chaos and Drake and Hashel, they should just get like Jose and they could just like flip the script." And I was just and I was saying that, and but kind of as time went on I was like, why would Drake flip? Like, what does that gain her? It gains her nothing, you know. So were there any times that you did consider like kind of flipping against Taste and Chili, or the Mafia 4 I should say, or were you just always like, no, Taste has protected me up to this point, Taste has protected me, like I couldn't do that to Taste?
I actually, the week I got voted out, um, when it was looking, prospects were kind of grim. I'm like, there aren't any good choices here. Who is my, which one is the least bad? And
Yeah.
I was honestly thinking Chili. It's, I think what saved Jose, the first of the puzzles game, like
Hmm.
Jose and I were chatting, and it was really like the first time that we had like definitely like had a one-on-one chat, and he turned out to be like the fucking pinball wizard when it came to like moving those puzzle pieces around, because I'm like, "Wee, my time is really good." Oh my god!
Yeah.
I was just dorking around with the same touchpad that's on the laptop I'm using right now, and it's just, I don't even think I could have been that fast with like
A
the mouse
mouse.
that I have on my main rig downstairs. I'm just
Yeah. I
um
raced I raced everybody as well, and I got smoked every single time, so I completely understand.
um
um
talking
we had
sorry
kind Go
sorry to
ahead,
cut
sorry.
you off. Um going into the vote after, because it was the night, it was the day after Memorial Day, and we had both um, challenge and vote back to back,
Yes.
and talking privately with all three of them. Chili, let me see. Well, it's no, it wouldn't be in a confessional because it was things that we were saying to each other. So let me go find that right quick. Because he said
There's
something really cryptic to me that just,
there's
he
another.
told me that Merc really wasn't an option for a
Mhm.
vote. And um, while both Taste and Chili said that, it's probably going to be you tonight, and I'm sorry, this was a really fun game. You were a really good contestant, yada yada yada. It's Chili basically telling me some insider baseball, was like, the reason you're telling me this now is because before this, I hadn't really mattered to,
Mhm.
like, there was no reason to tell me any of the insider baseball, which, had I not been voted off, I probably would have voted for Chili. It's And then suddenly Chili's off the table and Merc's off the table. Like, I knew there was one idol floating around. I didn't know there was fucking two. That was just, I guess I should have clicked on things more, but like Cena was always like, "Grr, why are people waking me up at 3 a.m. wanting to interact with crap?" And it's just, the guy works a high stress job. It's,
You
let
know,
we have one interact a day. Let's poke like the rest of the mod team. Maybe they know what's going on. It's But I
in
probably should have been more diligent looking for idols or clues or whatever. But
they are really they are really well hidden. Like the do you know how Taste and Chili found theirs initially?
no, actually.
Okay. So there are in the history of SA, there are like forums that exist but are invisible. So, like for example, the 2012 Summer Olympics forum. There's a forum for the 2012 Olympics. It exists. It's just invisible. And it has like a three if you look at like the forum codes, they're all 3-digit numbers. So like for example, the Punch Sport Pagoda, or Punch Suplex Pro, which is the wrestling forum, is forum ID 177. If you delete that 177 and type like 246 or 243,
So those
it'll take you to those forums that don't exist anymore.
so those three number snippets were a forum where somebody
Yep.
could find. I was treating I didn't know that. I was just treating
Yeah.
them as numbers, like, okay, this is like future coordinates for crap. But
Well, but what was interesting was that Cena and Taste had been talking like a year and a half earlier. And Cena had just mentioned in passing that there were these like invisible forums. And so before the game even started, and before like, or well, sorry, not before the game started, but right after the game started, Taste just started like putting in every 3-digit number he could think of for forum ID codes and then happened to find one. And then right after that was when El Generico and I think it was Sally had revealed their 3-digit codes, and then Chili had already known how Taste found his. So then when he saw that other 3-digit number, he just went really quick and grabbed that idol. So I mean, but like I'm on the production team. I had no fucking clue. Like, I saw those three-digit codes and I was like, "What the hell are these three-digit numbers?" Like, I didn't know that invisible forums were even a thing.
Yeah, I had no idea either. I figured that there'd be what I was thinking with those original codes is that there was going to be like a future game that would involve numbers somehow, like a Sudoku thing or something.
Mhm.
And this was like a bonus thing, like if you because I added up both of them and they turned out to be like 14 or 15 or something. And I was like, aha, this is going to be a key in a future game that would because I'm thinking like game wise, like in okay, this is if this is a video game, like how Nintendo has like these games for kids that if you play them later on, it's like trying to get all the things. It's like this is kind of how you have to think to get
Yeah.
all unlock all the secret stuff.
It was really funny seeing everybody's, like, interpretation of what the numbers meant. So you weren't the only one who was like, "Oh, these are coordinates. These are, like, XY." Like, maybe there's gonna be a challenge later on. There's gonna be XY coordinates, and yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff, but Cena goes really he plans these, like, years in advance because I think those posts and those dead forums, and I wish I could remember what the numbers were, but um, he had made those posts like last year, and it was so people couldn't look at his post history and find, like, oh, hey, look, there's this weird post that Cena made like 4 days ago. It was like a year ago. He goes
That
hard.
oh my gosh.
Cena goes hard. He wants these to be as fun as possible. So
And our I hate to say it, but our my last challenge was kind of a wet fart compared to like find the images
oh, that
like
one is tough. That was a tough challenge.
I felt like a lot of those really depended on like how fast you could F5 and how cooperative your internet was being.
Yeah.
Um,
Cena's view on that kind of stuff is um it's sometimes in Survivor when people are doing these challenges, the wind blows and the wind might blow your stack of rocks down, but not your neighbors. And that's just sort of like that's Cena's view on things is just that like sometimes the wind blows. But I totally understand what you mean because I used to live in the country in a really rural area and I had satellite internet. And so I don't know, satellite internet has terrible latency, like 3 4 second latency. So I'm like f5ing f5ing f5ing, and then all of a sudden I see like post here, link your post back here, and so I'm like clicking and it's like 4 seconds typing out my post, hitting post, 4 seconds copying the post, 4 seconds back to this page, 4 seconds. So I totally can understand how
that
frustrating some of those challenges can be.
that's how I won my DVDs during the auction. It's like my parents' internet was just not cooperating, and I'm like, I'm gonna walk out of here without a prize. I'm just gonna like shove all my Kongs out there and see what happens. I was like, oh, I won a mystery gift, like which turned out to be the season of Survivor that I'm currently kind of going through, and just like, oh, I think I understand these things better now. And
One of the other votes that I wanted to talk to you about was the final seven vote, that or the vote at seven where Haschel went out. So I know that Haschel had kind of pulled you and Chaos into a room together. It's just the three of you. And he was just basically like, look, if you guys vote me out here, you're going out at 6 and you're going out at 5. Like, did Haschel's plea to you, like, did he just approach you guys the wrong way, or at that point was it just too late?
That I
I wish I could remember which chat room that was.
I'm trying to see if we had like any direct communication besides.
Oh, it was backyard baseball.
And
And so it was basically Haschel is I spent most of my weekend trying to tell Jose Chilimerk that unless one of you two or Taste went home, then the three of you could run the table to the end, and that my vote for this round was locked in on Taste. Um, and then he just pretty much like um, hard sold the both of you. Like he was like, I mean, if I'm wrong, that's fine. It's not like I can be voted out twice. Like I'll be straight up scrambling to stay in, yada yada.
yeah,
Truth is, final seven is a critical round because while it takes 4 to have a majority now, next round, it only takes 3 to force rocks. If I go home at 7, it's going to be unanimous, etc., etc., etc. Um, was there any consideration into siding with Haschel there, or was it just like, no, let's. Because again, I think that you 100% made the right play. You stuck with the person that was, you know, that was like loyal to you and that hadn't lied to you. So yeah, I totally understand not wanting to flip with Haschel, but was there any consideration to flip with Haschel there at 7?
I I felt like Haschel was coming to Chaos and I because he was desperate. Like he
Oh yes.
stay
100%.
wanted to stay in,
Yeah,
and
100%.
um talking about it, I think it was Chaos and Taste and I were talking about it, like what was the guarantee that if Haschel stayed in, like he wouldn't vote for us because Haschel had already voted for me once. And
Yeah, technically twice, because he voted for you once during the tie round, during the merge vote, and then he voted for you on the spokes vote.
oh yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, I totally don't blame you at all for not being like, you've tried to vote me out twice. Like, why the fuck would I work with you? Like, what the hell, man? Like I said, I don't blame you at all for not flipping there. But was there, so there was just zero consideration? It was just like, no, this guy has tried to vote me out. Like, I'm not going to work with him.
I I think that's really where like I knew who I was going to vote for going into.
Hmm.
I was also kind of salty after Frog Drop anyway. Um,
What happened during Frog Drop? I'm sorry.
um, I timed out during.
Oh, I felt so bad about that because I think that you posted like literally right after I was like, that's time.
Yeah, it
I felt bad.
it
I had forgotten about that, but I fucking felt bad about that.
um I I figured that yeah, it's out of everybody here who who here can I not see myself playing with the next time we go to immunity or council, and it's Ashel.
Hmm.
And he was just so fucking salty about it. Like, we kept him from winning
Whoa.
like $1 million, and I'm like, it's a gift certificate. Like,
He so in there was a season of Survivor that's happened in the last couple years. I don't remember exactly what year it was, but it was called Edge of Extinction. And the first person who was voted out was this woman named Reem. And she went to Extinction Island. And so at the edge of extinction, you stay on this island. It's desolate, but you can stay on it for as long as you want, or as if you don't want to stay, you can just go. And at the merge and at like the final five, there's a competition to get back into the game. And but then everybody who's on the edge goes to final tribal as the jury. So it was like this like 14-person jury or something. Is insane. But like Reem would basically just yell and like bitch out every person who came to the edge of extinction, because she was like, I fucking told you, if you didn't vote this person out, you were going to get voted out. And I felt like Haschel had a little bit of that Ream role going on, because I know that when like Chaos came to Ponderosa, and I know that when you came to Ponderosa, like Haschel kind of gave you guys an earful, and that was a little like, oh, buddy, what are you doing here?
I actually mentioned about like all the salt on the jury to taste, and he's like, no, you can't talk to me anymore because I'm still in the game and you're not, and we could
Oh,
get in trouble. And it's just, and I'm like, whoops. And I'm like, well, who do I talk to now?
yeah.
And it's just trying to talk with the jury, who they're busy like trying to guess all the moves, and like they're committed to like watching and analyzing every single play. And it's just like, I wanted to go back to where we were sharing like pictures of our pets. Like, don't we talk about anything else other than like that time we got backstabbed, or who's gonna backstab each other tonight? I mean,
Oh yeah, I mean it's kind of weird. I've only been to Ponderosa once, so I don't really, I don't really have like a good concept of what it's like. But reading Ponderosa, it did seem that there were, that a lot of there was this kind of like focus where it was either like, hey, I'm here to have fun, let's have fun, and then it was like, no, let's fucking analyze this thing like as in depth as we possibly can.
let's run this shit into the ground.
Yeah.
Like, no.
Um. So one thing that Taste told me, and when you do these interviews, there can be a little bit of, there's a Survivor podcast that I listen to called Rob Has a Podcast, and he says that when he does these interviews, that a lot of time there can be a little bit of fan fiction in these, where when he's interviewing players, they're like, this is what I was trying to do, and they just never showed it on the show. One thing that Taste had mentioned to me, and I was just curious that if he had talked to you in Chaos about this, he said that initially his idea was for you, Chili, and Chaos to go to four in voting out Merc and Jose, but that Chili kind of put the kibosh on that. Had Taste talked to you about that at all, or had you heard anything about that?
I I got some inklings of it. I felt like the
Hmm.
bromance was breaking up. That once once it started to matter, like, it was like they were voting for more like not who was going to go, but who would be left.
Hmm.
Um, I felt like Chile became more interested in making sure that he won the game than like watching out for everybody else.
Hmm.
Um, and I mean, that's how the game is played. like looking at it now, going like learning more about Survivor and all that. Like, yeah, at like there's a point in time where you're looking out for yourself. Um, I knew that Chili and Taste weren't exactly voting in lockstep anymore, and Taste was worried for me and worried for Chaos. But as far as knowing like the detailed plans in his head, I only knew that from reading confessionals of
Excuse me.
how, oh, you're fine, of how like they wanted things to,
Hmm.
how they wanted things to go by the end. And
Had at final six, did Chaos, because it was kind of weird because like Chaos just sort of seemed to come out of nowhere as like all of a sudden he was this huge threat, and then he pretty much gets voted out at six unanimously. Did Chaos try talking to you at all, or did he try to like reach out to you and say like, hey, maybe we should get this person so that we can try to prevent me from going home? Were there any conversations like that that you can recall?
no, I think at that point we were still hinging pretty heavily on Taste. We
Okay.
look at my direct conversation with Chaos is 5 lines long. Um, yeah, about like the longest conversation we had was what the night we voted Hashel out. Um, Going back
Like, no problem.
just a week or so, it's
It's weird how like time condenses during these things, doesn't it? Like when you're in it, it just seems like each day is like hours. But then when you're looking back at it, you're like, oh, that was like 3 weeks ago. That wasn't that long ago.
yeah, yeah. Ah, I'm talking here with Taste about the vote for Chaos. Um, where Taste was trying to convince Chili to um, vote for somebody other than and couldn't get Chili to flip.
Hmm.
And um, he told me that if Chaos can get someone to flip, I'm happy to vote with them. But otherwise, I'm in it for personal security. And he, Taste was just kicking himself when Blaze got the vote. And I think that, yeah, because I voted for Spokes.
Yeah.
That was the only vote where I wasn't voting with the
No,
majority.
no. You voted on the Blaziken vote. You voted for Hashel.
Eh,
Yeah, because that was the vote where Taste tried to flip to protect Blaziken and flip the vote against Hashel, and then Chili just put the kibosh on that, and so it ended up being Chili, Jose, Merc, Chaos, Hashel, Spokes all voted for Blaziken, and then you, Blaziken, and Taste all voted for Hashel. I
I
will also say this is based I'm telling you this based off of Cena's charts, so it is entirely possible these things have been known to be wrong in the past, but it
no, no,
on the
I'm not.
Blaziken vote, it was Haschel. You voted for Spokes the following you voted for Spokes the following week, and that was where it was 6-2 for Spokes to go home.
Ah, okay.
Sorry, I'm not trying to
No, no,
like
no, it's okay. I'm thinking about the event right. I just got the person that I was voting for wrong
yeah.
because it's just
And
the
I'm
Blaze
sorry that
Bay
we kind
stands
of
out in my mind that the person that I voted for was not the person who ended up going.
yeah, and that's another really underappreciated thing is the fact that you were on the right side of the vote almost every time. Like that's hard for people to do. Like I think when I look back at my season, I was only on the right side of the vote pre-merge or post-merge like 3 times. And yeah, I mean the fact that you were consistently on the right side of the vote in all but one occasion is a testament to the fact that you were like really locked in with what the majority was thinking. Um with that Haschel flip, like or the I guess the failed flip, were you worried about like any blowback against you for that failed flip, or did you pretty much think that okay, if this fails, like Taste will just take all the heat for it and I'll be fine?
I thought that we would be in the doghouse for voting for Haschel. That it could be either of us
Yeah,
as but I didn't know like if retaliation votes were a thing and it turns out that yeah, they definitely can be.
they definitely can be. Um, sorry, you said something and I was gonna. I had a damn it. I can't. I had a follow up question. I can't remember what it was. I'm sorry. Oh, I remember what I was gonna say. Thank you. I felt like the taste that after that the Blaziken vote. Did you feel like that taste like his game changed, or did you feel like that he kind of got more quiet, or was that something you weren't really thinking about?
No, I felt like he was shook up after that.
Hmm.
Not that I felt like he put a lot of pride into his powers of persuasion and like it was the first time like all game that it didn't work. And
That was sort of my take on it too. And I think even when I was talking to him, the failed flip was something that kind of haunted him throughout the rest of the game because like there's a thing in Survivor where you know people on the jury don't remember what happened at the start of the game, and I think Taste even would admit that the first half of the game was where he was was his like apex, and it was that last half, everything after the uh Blaziken vote was just sort of like him being much more quiet. And I feel and Taste feels that ultimately that was kind of a thing that ended up hurting him down the stretch. um, how did you feel about? Is there anything pre Final Tribal Council that we haven't talked about that you want to? Are there any relationships that we didn't really talk about, or was there anything? I know that you had um, a lot of personal stuff going on too, and I know that I just know from experience that 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 can make it doubly hard because like part of you is like, well, I want to, this is like my social circle, but
yeah,
like is it okay to talk to them about that in context of the game? Like, how are they gonna take this? So, um, you posted a couple things in your confessional that were really touching and were really like, oh wow, this, this gives so much more context onto, what's going on with the person behind the keyboard. And I think that was when a lot of people were like, oh, she's quiet, but she's got some fucking good reason to be quiet. So,
I admit I didn't participate a lot and in the jury until the final vote because I still don't like. Sally swears up and down that he was trying to find like a just like a high five gif of,
oh,
and like I can see it that way, but I remember like the night that I got voted off, I was feeling like crap to begin with. I've got Haschel doing some Monday morning quarterbacking, which is like, I want to vote this person out like as many times as possible right now.
yeah.
I want to boot them off the island repeatedly till I feel better. Um,
So,
and then Sally just like, oh, that is the right image. Oh, that is the right image. And it's like, is this?
so it's actually funny that you bring this up, because um, I kind of had a conversation with Sally. Um, um, we were talking about how kind of like your flipped vote would have changed a bunch, and Sally, and this was like not, not prompted or anything. Sally specifically said, I really didn't intend to send that passive aggressive high five gif when she joined Ponderosa. I just couldn't see what random grift I searched on my cell phone. I tried to PM her afterwards and explain um, what happened. She didn't respond, so I hope she's all right.
Oh, all right. I feel a bit better now.
It's so funny that you brought that up because, like I said, Sally brought that up to me like completely unprompted.
I, I felt like after that it was kind of a ritual at first. Like, okay, the morning of whatever event's going on that evening, I'm sitting out on my front porch. I'm watching the dog do whatever she does in the front yard that keeps me from going back inside. And we're talking, okay, this is our strategy for tonight. What are we going to do? And just also like silly and having fun, like mentioned at the very beginning, like that summer camp mentality.
Yeah,
Um, and I I really didn't feel it in the jury box. Like,
you had some. I I feel like that juries kind of, the people on the jury can kind of dictate like what kind of a jury it is. And so I think the fact that you had people like Haschel, who's a gamer, Spokes, who's a gamer, and I mean gamer in the sense of like, that this kind of a game is something that they're really into. You have it Spokes, you had Haschel. Blaziken was incredibly like dialed into everything that like when I there have been people that I've done these interviews with where I was like, wow, you were really in tune with, like you were in tune with what was going on, obviously because you were in the thick of everything. But like Blaziken, who I felt had largely been out of, like there's an alliance chart for the merge tribe, and like Blaziken is literally not in a single one of them. Um, and the fact that like Blaziken was like so tuned into what was going on, I was like, was a huge shocker. But I think the fact that you had people like Haschel and Spokes kind of whipping the jury, um, to be more strategy focused, because like when I was on the jury for Awful Big Brother, uh, the jury was like fun. It was like everybody was like, "Oh, boy, we sure didn't see that alliance coming to like come shithouse all of us. Like, oh man, boy, what a fun game. Whereas I felt like with some of the people that were in the jury, it was a lot more analytical.
Yeah.
As you will see, if you decide to read the Vista, that there was people who also in the viewers Vista who were not 100% happy about that. But it's, again, it's one of those things like I don't want to besmirch. I don't want to besmirch any player because I know that these games like can get to you, but um, there were some players who really were like, I know a lot about Survivor, and I'm going to make sure everybody knows that I know a lot about Survivor. So, um, going into Final Tribal, had you already pretty much like decided like I'm voting taste and nothing Chili and Jose say is going to convince me otherwise, or was your vote like up for grabs and you just thought that taste played the best?
I
And
went in.
both
Oh,
answers are completely fine. Like there's it would not shock me if your vote was 100% locked in for taste given how taste treated you the whole game, but I could also, see like hey, my vote's up for grabs, like you worked with Chili, you worked with Jose to an extent, so like I could see both. So don't, either answer is fine.
well, I went in for I went into Final Council voting for taste because
Hmm.
like he had been there for me. I felt like it was only fair that I could be there for him. But reading a lot of what Jose had to say when he talked about getting lucky breaks, that he was surprised that he was there, I was thinking of how he had played in the previous matches, the challenges, and like, of course, he's the puzzle king. That's how he got the immunity. But just somebody who consistently went out there and did his best and not really thinking of what the his current position in the survivor game was. It's just the immunity challenge game. It's like, okay, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to do what I need to do in there.
Hmm. Jose really impressed a lot of people. I I had thought that he had just pretty much won it flat out. Like I thought Jose was friggin' incredible in his final tribal performance, and I'm really looking forward to getting a chance to talk to Jose to talk about the final tribal because it was masterful. Like, wow.
Yeah, that's an interview I want to see, because I kind of written off Chile at that point. Like, I I felt like I had been played, that I was important but not important enough.
Hmm.
Whereas Taste didn't make me feel that way, and Jose didn't make me feel that way either, but like, we weren't buddy buddy in the game like Taste and I were, but he just seemed just honest and friendly and easygoing to everybody. Like a capybara, I guess. Like, gets along with everybody, just really chill. And
Hmm.
um I I think my obligation to Taste won me, like, that's what won me out in the end, until like I think it's admirable that Taste had, like, he felt the same obligations too, which led him to vote for Chili. But I feel like if Taste hadn't been true to his word, then he probably would have voted for Jose, and Jose would have been the winner. I think Chili would still have been like the fan favorite
Hmm.
winner, whatever happened. But as far as winning the whole game, I think obligation led me to vote for Taste and led Taste to vote for Chili.
Yeah, it was it was an amazing tribal council. Like it was it was so much fun to watch, and I enjoyed the outwit, outlast, outplay uh, format. I know probably for the jurors it wasn't fun, um, because
It was like one last chance for all of us to piss Cena off.
yeah.
Like, how can you people not follow basic direction?
Oh my god, there was a point in time where I think, if I remember correctly, like Jose and Taste were kind of like sniping at each other a little bit, and it was getting kind of heated in the thread. And like Cena had told Bunny to post, and then had seen like the sniping in the thread, and then was like, wait, Bunny, like don't post, don't post. Let's see where this goes. Let's see where this goes. And Bunny was like, ugh, too late. And we were all in the Vista. We were all like, oh, oh no, like I wanted to see that. But I liked your question about shepherding the noobs, because that's like one of the one of the weird things in, so I know you're not a huge Survivor fan, but like in any season where they have returning players mixed with newbie players, sort of a similar thing that happens in this game almost always happens, where like the returnees are like, we are gonna like beat up these, not figuratively, but you know, we're
Yeah,
gonna beat up these newbies, and we're just gonna uh you know, we're gonna make sure that we the returnees get to the end, which is essentially like what happened in this game. But I thought your question about shepherding the noobs was a really good one. And then, as I said to you before the game started, like I started out something awful Survivor in month 7 in COVID isolation. Right about the time of the shakeup, I found my dad had lung cancer. Like when you kind of laid out everything that was going on with you, there was sort of a collective like, oh my gosh, like you went through some shit. And like the fact that you played as well as you did was like incredible. And uh I really think that you should hang your hat on that, and that you should really be proud of the way that you played, because you beat out a lot of people who you beat out a lot of people, you know. So I think you should be really proud of that.
I hate to do this to you, but it's 12:30 here, and I think
Sure,
I'm
yeah.
keeping my roommate up. I'm
Okay. Do you
it's
have
I
any
am hearing what you're saying, and thank you. It's the
I
game
have
doing it meant a lot to me, so it's
I have one last question. I promise I'll make it quick.
sure.
If you played again, what would be your biggest, what thing would you change the most, or would you not change anything?
I'm a little wiser to the politics now. Um, I think I would start sounding out alliances earlier.
Hmm.
Um, but other than that, like I I went in wanting to have fun, and if I played again, that's exactly what I would do. Like the minute it would stop being fun, I was like, okay, I'll just vote me out if it's not fun anymore.
Yeah. Well, Drake, I know that you have to go, so I won't keep you. Thank you so much for giving me so much of your time tonight. I genuinely appreciate everything, and I'm so glad that I got the chance to talk to you because I'd been really looking forward to getting to know the person behind the name and getting to know more about their game. And based off of everything you said and everything that Taste said, like I think you played a hell of a game. So, um, you know, that's awesome. So I look forward to seeing you around the forums, and I'll have this. I'll probably have this video up tomorrow.
All right.
So,
Well,
all
thank
right.
you, Sal. It's been great.
Oh, thank you so much. Have a great night.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.
See ya.